I'm doing a different video than usual about what if, civilization started on another planet. So basically, this is what the planet looks like. You notice it's pretty big. Um, and also some of the lines, why did they not zoom in where I want to, are kind of blurry because, that's kind of how it has to work, unfortunately. And I use like a land generator to make this. So, and then I made some changes myself. Like I made this lake be bigger and have an island. So it's basically an island that's a lake on it, that has an island in it, that has a lake in it, that has another island in it. And it is, a bit blurry because that's how it had to work. But I tried to make it high detail as I could. And basically let's get into it. So basically, it has to be red because basically every civilization video starts with a red country. Like, I think we're all just slowly ripping off Ada's Pro, but there's a new map, all that. And there's a red civilization that starts over here in the southwestern part of this island, and they start growing in popularity. Right here, there's a red country on this island that's basically like a very blurry island. I'm gonna maybe fix it at some point, come back to this, but for now I'm gonna have to deal with it being blurry, and you are gonna have to too. But there's this very bright red nation spawning here. I'm gonna keep the red. I have to be true to Ada's Pro, and also the ground is green because that's how the generator made it, and I didn't feel like changing it. So basically it's gonna be like that, unless I change it myself. I might just go over with a thin brush and then try and redo this, but there's lots of land. I don't know why it's so glitchy when I'm zooming out. I'm doing this on MS Paint, so if it's not working too well, yeah. But it's really not that hard to do. MS Paint is surprisingly powerful. But okay, so basically, instead of doing the whole thing where it gets bigger and splits, there's people, this blue team, because the second country has to be blue because that's just kind of how it goes. Over here, up on the northeastern part of the island, hear about this cool civilization idea and starting the civilization. So I'll cut to me when I'm done with that. Okay, so this is what the two countries vaguely look like, and it seems like every video is going now. I have to add a capital because it's legally obliged, but no. So basically, I'm just going to boom, and then this one I'm just gonna show you how to do it. It's really simple. I'm just gonna do size. They're gonna be bigger countries eventually, but for now, because it's a small country, I'm just gonna do size 5. And I'm of course doing this on a new layer because if I did the same layer, it would not work. So, okay, let's go back to this layer. Now we have these two countries. They don't really know too much about each other because they're still very new countries. And with this, just nothing else to do, they decide to expand a bit. And then it's just the red team expanding these lands. It's very luscious lands, and then also some from the blue team. This first episode probably not going to be the most consequential because not much is going to happen. It's probably going to be partially boring. I don't know why I put them on exact opposite sides, because that's not good for conflict. And as I've seen with a lot of other new civilization videos, conflict is good for viewership. So, and as much as I want to just say oh, I do it for the fans, sometimes they have to do stuff for viewership. But no, I really like doing this stuff. It's it's fun stuff. Don't doubt me. So basically, let's just say there's a rebellion because that makes things interesting. And what color? I'm gonna use this gray color because I'm legally obliged. And then the land over here decides to rebel. Nice and easy to do rebellion, and of course with any rebellion they need a capital because they're, like I said, I'm legally obliged, guys. And then their capital is gonna be right there. So these countries, if you look at it, don't worry the glitchiness compared to this world, they are tiny. You can barely even see them from out here. So But no, yeah, the feature on there is extremely jittery and it's annoying when trying to go back to something. But okay, so basically, because it's a rebellion, there has to be a civil war here, you know. So that's not the right one. Nah, color blue. So basically, because there's, you know, rebellion here, there's gonna be a little bit of a skirmish. They're gonna try and invade into their land, try and make a bit of a spearhead. But then they get, like, these armies are fairly weak and mostly, they're more like militias comprised of, like, local people wanting to fight. They try to cut off and they kind of encircle this part. But the thing is, like, their army, like, they had a lot of army in the spearhead, so it's, like, very slowly going down. And while that's happening, the gray team is trying to connect back, and then they do, giving them supplies. But while that's happening, the blue team over here knew that something was happening, so they tried creating their own spearhead and get dangerously close to the capital. So, hearing word of this, the gray team has to go there and then cut off and destroy the blue team army. But also, while that was happening, it's a lot of back and forth, to be honest, which makes sense because both of them are about equal power. They cut off the gray team army again, and they're like, okay, this is obviously getting nowhere. Can we just have peace? So, they could change borders, but honestly, I have a little pet peeve about, like, YouTubers just being, like, in these videos, just being like, oh, they changed borders in this country to naturally, and they're also too scared of exclaves. So I'm just gonna leave this exclave here, because it feels more realistic, just having little exclaves and all that, and just, yeah. So, that's partially why I'm having it like this, but maybe a bit more like that. Yeah, there, that looks better. So, you know, as that's happening, you know, this Civil War finished, the red team has been taking advantage of that and growing their, size. Kind of just, like, expanding and then doing some coastal expansion, which I don't like as much because the whole border thing. But no, yeah, the red team's been expanding. It's been, like, a lot, you know, slower because I'm showing it all at once because that's just easier because, you know, because I didn't want to do it midway through the battle, like, oh, going through the battle and, oh, back to red team, but no. So, yeah, they have this Civil War, and now that they're both out of the war, they decide that, okay, I guess now that we're no longer warring, we can expand. So they start trying to expand across the coast, and they do that pretty well. You know, there's not much to, like, go out there. And then we have, like, blue team out here, you know, also expanding because they feel like it. because they feel like it. So, yeah, they slowly expand throughout there. So they're, like, kind of peaceful now, but tensions are still kind of high because they're like, oh, yeah. And instead of, like, a rebellion happening in the red team, because they don't want, like, rebellion, they want, like, new land because they're feeling like they're getting subjugated, because of course they have to be subjugated. So they make a new kind of orange area. So it's not really a civil war. It's more of just like, let's do our own thing. And they don't want to, like, go too far because they're worried about, like, implications. So they just make a little tiny colony and just, like, for now, like, they're set up as, like, a vassal state. So, like, they're, like, making a thing where, oh, red team, we can be your vassal state. So vassal states are basically, like, they're owned by the red team, but not actually, and they have slightly more freedoms than usual. So it's sort of a slow push because they don't want to have a civil war because the red team army is surprisingly strong for how early on it is. And because it's just a vassal state, they don't really get they don't really get a capital yet because they're not really granted that freedom because they kind of tied to the red team, so their capital is technically the red team capitals. I'm just doing a different color to make it look better. So this is like kind of the same nation with like vassal states. It's, feudalism, why not? But then after this, vassal state expansion, let's go back to just a little bit of expansion here. These countries are just, after having a civil war, they just want to expand more, because who doesn't? And who doesn't? And the Grey Team has been kind of sour about what happened, not really gaining much land. They gained like 2 pixels maybe, and they want like full freedom and like to take over the country. So there's like starts to be this split between the Grey Team of like more like liberals versus conservatives. Like, oh, do we want to take back the land, or do we want to just like let them have it? So like there's whole debate in the Grey country. Yeah, in this debate in the Grey country, they start kind of splitting. Yes, there's another civil war within a civil war. So basically, there's Dark Grey starts kind of like forming rebellions, and then there's like, I'm gonna turn off the. I'm gonna hide the capital layer right now. Near the capital, also. And there's just like rebelling pockets of like nationalist land. And because like most of the military is like with the land, because that's kind of like, the military is the one that wants to like keep moving the expansion. They kind of unite their different blobs. Unite their blobs. And like because their military unite, they start winning this battle, and they're like steamrolling through the light gray because they don't really have the military, because the dark gray was their military, until the blue team gets involved, because the blue team knows that they're gonna be attacked. Like this whole thing is the Gray Team was there, so they start attacking the dark Gray Team because they know like. And the Dark Grey Team didn't think they would be attacked until like later, until they fully took over the country. So they weren't ready for this. So they kind of get steamrolled here. But because the Dark Grey Team is like fully military focused and actually has pretty strong military for their size, they start to like push back, especially along the coastal areas, because they have, navy, I guess. And like they start pushing back and like go to a standstill. But then when the dark gray troops are distracted, the light gray troops move in. So basically they kind of take quite a bit of their land back, and then like, the Gray Team's like, this is not good, let's do a truce. So basically they're gonna do a peace deal, because they all accepted peace deal, and I'm going to come back to that later. Situation over here, I guess, but also technically the orange team is expanding more, because the red team is using their military for the orange team to expand, to help a bit, and they don't really realize yet that this whole orange team thing is a plan to get away from their rule. The red team monarch isn't the smartest. So they just think like, let's give the orange vassals resources to help them expand and grow our glorious kingdom. But like they don't realize it yet, and the orange team isn't moving yet, because they know they have to wait a bit. But this is definitely gonna be interesting eventually. But no. Okay, yeah, and then here they start to expand more, because especially the light gray team, because they feel like they lost a bunch of land. So they want to expand and I don't know what I'm saying. So they're expanding a bit over here. Actually, quite a bit over here, because they want to not, because the battle was taxing, but they want to expand again. The Dark Grey Team can't really expand yet, but like we saw earlier, they do have a decent navy. So not yet, but eventually, hint, hint. But not yet. They're probably gonna they're definitely become militarily focused. Okay, so basically that's the capitals. They have very small capitals because they're small countries. But this dark gray team is definitely militarily focused, so they're definitely training their military. And with their military sitting around, they're going to become pretty powerful. That's called foreshadowing. So you don't feel not threatened by them, even though they're very small, because they are a lot more powerful than they look. So that's not going to be happening yet, but no, eventually. I'm doing a lot of foreshadowing. I should stop rambling. So then the orange team is going to expand a tad bit more, not too much. And then the red team's like, oh, this vassal state is working out well. So they create a second vassal, good vassal, because they're just like, okay, this vassal thing is working well because I'm getting, I'm paying. It's like people feel like they have more autonomy, so they're like more willing to do stuff for me, and then they expand, and then it's like, oh. And so like they see the orange vassal going well, and they set up another vassal. But this vassal has a lot less chance of they don't really want to break away. The light gray team is expanding some more. They decide to expand around their capital a bit because their capital is looking a bit weak at the moment, and they keep on expanding out this way. And right now they don't actually know much. They just really know this area and this area. I could do a thing where it's grayed out in the areas they can't see, but maybe next episode. But no, not yet. And then, of course, a little bit the blue team expanding. Expansion. Very small, though, because their military is still a bit exhausted from the battle. And speaking of military, the gray and dark gray team still feels like they're being robbed, and then they can't also expand. So, and they also feel like their exclave is being unfairly treated. So it really starts in the exclave, where they start using that army, and then the dark gray team over here starts to connect the exclave to the mainland, and the dark blue team is like, oh, I don't know, it's in dark blue, it's the only blue team. The blue team is like, oh, no, you don't. But since they've been, sitting there, and the blue team's been expanding, but the dark gray team hasn't, they still have a lot of pent-up military might. So they, even how small they are, they push back, and the blue team's like, hey, light gray team, help. So they do. They just do, and they try creating a spearhead towards the capital, which is usually a good idea, because the capital's, right there. But then the dark gray team's like, no, you don't, and they cut off the spearhead, circle the army, and completely destroy it with ease, because they're strong, and then they make a spearhead towards the gray team capital, which they actually capture. So now they have their capital captured, and they're kind of in disarray, not knowing what to do, because without their capital, they can't really communicate well. And the blue team is like, oh no, I gotta, the blue team uses a bunch of army might to try and destroy this exclave in here. And, the gray team's distracted right now, so they don't really do much about it. But the thing they are going to do is try and cut off the country. So they sever the gray country in two parts, which is further worsening the situation, and they easily seize control over the confused armies. And now they only have to worry about the blue team. And that's bad for the blue team. Because, yes, they've been using a lot of military, but so has the blue team been using a lot of military. Because even though the gray team was small, like I said, they had a lot of pent-up might. And they're, slowly wanting to take back where their exclave was. And they just, it's not going well for the blue team. And the blue team makes one last... after this. The blue team tries making one last push, and they try to sever the land, and they are successful, but this little army is still holding on, and the gray team threatens to send more army to reconnect it, and they're like, okay, peace negotiation, peace, because they don't want to be destroyed. I partially just included this X-Slave because I wanted to keep the X-Slave here, partially to annoy people, partially just to have it. So, sorry if it annoys you. Sorry, not sorry. So, the gray team here, so they won, the blue team uses all their, political muster to be like, okay, can to get the light gray team back their capital, So they just use all their political muster to just basically give them back their capital area, and so they won't, have nothing. So they're almost basically just a city state. I'm only making their capital smaller, but they're basically just a city state. At this point, they have not much power at all, and compared to the whole rest of the world, they are tiny. So they have an agreement though that they won't attack the light gray team and their city state, at least for now. And the light blue team and the blue team is also here, and because of the gray team's military might, I'm also gonna expand their capital. I'm doing capital sizes by how much power they have, I guess, partially, and also just how big their country is, because I don't want to have a big capital in a tiny area. So, they have the capital there. So, yeah, that just happened. It's not good for the light gray team, or the blue team, really, because they have, not good land. They lost a lot of land. So, that's fun. But meanwhile, the red team is expanding to their vassal states. So they just slowly expand, la-di-da, la-di-do. And here comes the time where the Orange Nation decides to split off. They're like, I don't want to be your vassal anymore. And they form their own capital. And the red team's like, what? I did not see this coming because I do not have any foresight. And it was like, well, I'm gonna attack you. And then they're like, and the yellow vassal and the orange vassal were decent friends because they're both vassals and just yeah. And the red team takes this the wrong way and also starts a war on the yellow team because, like I said, the red team leader is not that smart, and the yellow team is like, "Why are you threatening war on us? We're your vassal state. We're here to help you." And they're like, "Oh, none of this trickery," and they try to focus on the yellow team because they think the yellow team's being deceitful, in the country, in the red team, they think deceit is or just lying is really bad. So they're just trying to steamroll through the yellow team, but meanwhile, when their armies were distracted, the orange team starts to retake some of their land over here, and actually starts doing well for themselves because the people this type of thing where they don't have much military, but they have a big militia because the people of the country don't want to be part of the red team, and a lot of people in the red team are flooding to the orange team because they see the orange team as a beacon of peace. And people would be going to the yellow team if it wasn't destroyed because they're... Oh, whoa. Oh, I'm on the wrong layer. Okay, so basically, they do not, and the red team does not take over the entire world. They take over all of the yellow team because they thought they were being deceived and lying and about not being part of the not being along with the orange team, and lying's bad in their country. But while that was happening, like I said, and now that I'm on the right layer, the orange team was steadily overtaking the red team because they have a strong militia, because a lot of people are flooding from the red team to the orange team because they didn't like the red team leadership. So they start making this spearhead into to the red team's capital, and they see this and oh, this is not good. So they try cutting off the spearhead using just kind of going like a bit, cutting off like this, and they do successfully cut it off, but that doesn't stop them because like the Orange military still strong enough, and they start to connect back to the exclave area, and they're just like, but the red team's like, no, you don't, and it's just kind of this. They realize this is just getting to a back and forth, and they're like, okay, peace. Now, like I said, just because the orange team has an exclave, because I wanted to, and like because I wanted to. Correct. So yeah, now they have an exclave right next to the capital, and the red team is very begrudgingly accepting that, but they are definitely not happy, and the former yellow team vassals, are also just like the people living there are not happy either, because they murdered the vassal of the like yellow team. As much as like the yellow team vassal subjugated them, they felt like the red team unfairly took all their land, and now they have less freedoms, and they are not happy, but they don't want to be taken over yet. But civil tensions are definitely brewing. Like the northern part of the red team is not happy. So yeah, fun stuff. But also, like I said, meanwhile, the blue team slowly expanding because they're like very slowly expanding out here into new lands. And then we have the dark gray team also slowly expanding, making a little spearhead out here. I don't know, because why not? They don't know there's a lake here, but they're curious and want to explore. And the light gray team doesn't do anything because they can't. They're completely surrounded. But yeah, so this is like, and now that the tensions have gone down a bit, the orange team is like, let's expand their own new homeland and freedom and all that, and there are a lot of new laws being passed, and just people feel more at ease. It's still like a monarchy and like a bit of like, a lot less freedoms than the modern day, but compared to the red team, there is like, it's a lot better freedom, so it's like people don't really complain. Like, it's not the best freedom, but compared to what we had before, it's better. So, yeah. And this might be where I leave it off for today, because this is what the island looks like, and this is basically what's going to be happening in the northeast corner and the southwest corner. And I think it's like very small, but no, a nice little like thing. And we got island, a lake, and island and a lake, and an island and a lake, and then the island. You can't see it's a massive island. It's more like continent, but yeah. Fun first episode about a lot of drama. So, bye, my cabbages, and I hope you have a good day, and tune into the next one.